85mm lens might not be the first lens for you, but for sure, it can take your photography to the next level. Sony has two variants of 85mm lens. Between these two, the Sony FE 85mm f1.8 is the most affordable one. I have been using this lens for over a year now. As I have hands-on experience with this lens, I decided to share the experience with you so that you can get a clear understanding of this lens, its quality, and most importantly, why you need Sony FE 85mm f1.8 lens. So without further ado, let's jump in. At the time of purchasing the Sony 85mm f1.8 lens, I knew that it didn't come with image stabilization. But as I am a commercial product photographer and usually shoot indoors with my camera sitting on a tripod, stabilization was not a very intriguing feature to me. However, if you intend to use it without a tripod, you might need a camera with in-body stabilization to compensate for handshake. The Sony 85mm lens is popular for the sharp images it can produce. On top of that, it features a wide aperture and short telephoto lens which is perfect for portraits, subject photography, and event photography. Additionally, this lens is also suitable for landscape photography as it lets you compress your image in a nice and subtle manner. Though it is the most affordable 85mm option of Sony, it comes with impressive build quality. Made of metal, this lens feels very smooth yet rugged. The brush painted finish of this lens is very nice to look at. Most of the Sony lenses don't have the focus switching button and you have to do it through your camera. But the Sony 85mm features a dedicated button for switching between autofocus and manual focus. Besides, I really like the sleek looking focus wheel and it also rotates very smoothly. Near the focus wheel, there is also a customizable focus hold button. Now let's discuss the bokeh quality of this lens. And this is where this lens really shines. The lens includes 9 glass elements and thus the bokeh shape is not exactly round. When I use it on Sony a6400, which is an APS-C sensor camera, I found the bokeh quality is adequately good. But it would be better if this lens could produce round-shaped bokeh. The autofocus motor works quietly and accurately, which is nice, but in my experience, I found that the autofocus motor is not very fast. As a commercial product photographer, I have faced a hard time when shifting focus from one product to another in the same frame. The autofocus struggles when the focus shifts from one object to another. The shift is not quite smooth, a bit shaky, and a little slow to be honest. However, the performance improves a bit when you shoot stills. Now let's take a look at how the lens performs for stills. I have shot this picture with a Sony a6400, which is an APS-C camera, at an aperture of 1.8. At the first glance, the image looks fine, and if you look very closely, you might notice subtle purple color fringing around the edges with higher contrast, and the corners look a little less sharp compared to the center part of the image. When I changed the aperture to 2.8, the purple fringing reduced and the sharpness around the edges improved a little. On aperture of 4, the purple fringing vanished and corners are also looking sharp. To me, I feel that the sharpness was alright up to aperture 11, but after that, the increase in aperture resulted in less sharp images because of diffraction. The performance of the lens is significantly increased when I used it with a full-frame camera. I found the images looked tacked sharp up to the aperture of 16 with a full-frame camera. About the distortion and vignetting, I have experienced that the lens does produce some distortion, but again, it is an easy fix for a post-production app like Lightroom. Now, about vignetting, it is more visible at lower aperture values like 1.8 and 2.8, but when you shift to a higher aperture value like f4, vignetting is less apparent and luminosity is almost evenly distributed all around the image. With this lens, you can place your subject at a minimum distance of 85 cm while using a full-frame camera, which is not very close. Based on my experience, this is a very average minimum focus distance for an 85mm lens, and Sony could have improved this for more close-up shots. In bright situations, the lens works adequately well, though I experienced some level of detail loss and a bit less contrast, but the image quality is satisfactory as there is not much flare effect in the image. I would suggest that you should use the lens hood while shooting on a sunny day. So that was all about my experience with the Sony FE 85mm f1.8 lens. This lens certainly has some impressive features like nice bokeh quality, amazing sharpness, and many more within budget. So if you already have the lens or if you are planning to buy one, please let us know in the comment section.